Senator Gary Peters of Michigan joins us at the table. He's the ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee, and I say struck a very appropriate profile today, sir.
Very much so. Look, Senator Rand Paul and Markwayne Mullin have history. Senator Paul opened the hearing with that history. He asked him to apologize. He did not do that. This is Rand Paul this afternoon. Take a listen.
Nobody really in the modern age that I know of, other than Markwayne Mullin, is justifying political science, political violence as, oh, well, we need a manly way to settle our differences, and some of those people just need to be punched in the mouth. That, to me, is bizarre, and I think makes him unfit to lead federal law enforcement.
So can you vote for him?
No. I mean, an apology might have had a chance, but he's had several chances.
Is Senator Paul the only Republican member who is not going to be voting for Senator Markwayne Mullin on that committee?
Yeah, that's my intention. He'll be the only no vote, and so we'll see how the vote total plays out. But clearly, it was quite an opening to the hearing, and as you know, the assault on Senator Paul was pretty significant. In fact, he went into great detail as to how violent it was. And to have Senator Mullin say, well, it was, it's okay. It was understandable. So anybody who's the victim of that kind of crime and to think that a United States senator says, well, that's what he gets, is simply unacceptable and clearly unacceptable to be a Secretary of Homeland Security at a time when we need to de-escalate, we need to bring down the rhetoric. We've got a Department of Homeland Security that has lost the trust of so many of the American people. And how do we rebuild that trust? It's certainly not someone who is prone to violence and is a hothead.
There was a moment of intrigue in today's hearing. There was a question that Mullin repeatedly sidestepped about an international trip he took, classified by an unknown entity for an unknown purpose, for an unknown training. Members moved to a classified setting in order to get more details. Were you satisfied by the answers you got about that in the SCIF?
No, I wasn't satisfied. And a lot of us kind of sat back and heard some of the explanations and how it was classified, and he wouldn't get into the specific details in a lot of respects. And it just became more complicated and more confusing. And this is issue. This whole issue of some of the bio and the things that he's said on podcast and television over the years, kind of making him look like he's some sort of operative. There's no evidence to support that kind of thing. And it really talks to his trustworthiness. So can we trust him? If this is so hard to get this information.
His trustworthiness vis-a-vis whether or not his priority is the United States, or his trustworthiness whether or not he's able to answer a simple question?
Certainly, if he can answer questions and not change the story constantly. When you think about a Secretary of Homeland Security, you want somebody who's going to get on camera, talk about a situation, and sometimes complex and certainly dangerous situations, and you want to believe that what the person is saying is actually true. And so if we're having a hard time getting a straight answer from him when he needs our vote, I can't expect that we're going to get any kind of straight answer from him once, if he is confirmed. Why would he do that? And so I think that that's really disqualifying for a lot of reasons.
There's a lot that's disqualifying about this man.
Yeah.
And yet, he's going to become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Why? Because there's nothing to stop them. Is there? I mean, look, I still marvel at the fact that what's his name, Senator, held up the nominations for DOD for 100+ days.
Tommy Tuberville.
Tommy Tuberville.
Yeah.
Y'all can't stop this?
Yeah.
100 days. Not a damn nomination went through the United States Senate because one senator said it ain't happening. Mm-hmm. And it only happened when he decided, okay, now I got what I want, I'll move on. So, yeah, it'll get out of committee. Mm-hmm. The rules in the Senate aren't the rules in the House where the minority is stuck. What options do you have or are there available to prevent what everybody on the Hill knows is a bad appointment? Because, look, to be honest, this is one of every bad appointment this president has made, and they've all gone through. And here we are now suffering the consequences of it as we've witnessed all the fallout from these people in these jobs. Right. So when do we get to stop this?
Yeah, the difference with all of those military appointments is that you can do it if you have an individual vote on everybody. And when you have a long list of people, there's just not enough time to do that. So you have to do it en masse, and that's usually never controversial because these are people who've gone through the process of being selected. But this is different. This is a vote, and clearly a cabinet secretary will get a vote on the floor of the Senate. And under the rules we have now, just a majority vote. The filibuster doesn't apply here. So it's just simply a majority vote. Republicans have 53. Rand Paul will likely be a no, but that's still not enough to change it if every other Republican is there. And it's the realities of what we got to deal with. But as you said, if you look at nearly every appointment that we've seen from the Trump administration, it's not about experience. It's not about any kind of qualification, except that you are 100% loyal to the president. And we also know that he'll be Secretary of Homeland Security if confirmed, but he's not going to really be running it. It's really run by Steve Miller, and it's run by the White House.
Which means nothing changes, Simone.
Right,
well,
exactly.
I mean, Senator Gallego asked that very question today, and Mark Wayne Mullin said he serves the president. Look, Michael's point about Republicans are going to vote for this, not Rand Paul, but everybody else, and John Fetterman apparently today, before hearing some of the things in the hearing, said, I'm going to support you. It's crazy to me because this is what Senator Mullin said about the shooting of, I believe this is in reference to Renee Good. Take a listen.
It's very clear that an officer had to make a split decision in that case as a car was running towards him and did strike him. At that point, that car becomes a lethal weapon. And an officer that there was another officer obviously giving her verbal commands.
So are you saying, and I apologize for interrupting you, but
yes,
you're saying you do not regret that statement?
I'm saying that the investigation is going on, but what
there is no investigation, Senator. In fact, that was my next question to you.
Senator,
don't you think there should be an investigation?
My understanding is that there is. I will find out if I'm able to get confirmed.
I will note that after Renee Good was killed, Mark Wayne Mullin said that the shooting was justified. I will remind people that the officer shot and killed Renee Good while streaming with a gun in one hand and his cell phone recording it in another hand.
Right.
Deputy AG Todd Blanche said in January that there would be no investigation into Good's death. And last week, attorneys for Good's family told CPR News that their January 14th letter to ICE has gone unanswered. Mm-hmm. How can folks still vote for him, given these kind of statements?
Well, I agree. And I brought up in the hearing about Alex Preddy that basically he said immediately after the incident, he said, well, he was deranged and was coming to cause mass casualties. That clearly was not the case at all. He said it immediately. So my question was, we did hear that from Kristi Noem, basically the same thing. So are we going to expect just the same thing? You're going to have a rush to judgment? What's the difference here? We need to have someone, as I mentioned at the top of the segment here, we've got to have someone who brings down the heat, someone who brings down the rhetoric, someone who's going to try to rebuild trust in the Department of Homeland Security. And what we got is a guy who's just going to be a clone of what we've saw and seen from Kristi Noem.